7:06, I will call the March 3rd meeting of Finance Committee to order. Present, we have Bill, Steve, Paul, Trace, Gavin, Zach, Kevin, and I think we have Paula online. Is there anyone else that joined us online?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right. So when we get started, are we going to start, take them in order, Mike, with the police first? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So I'll briefly go through some highlights or bullet points on the budget, starting with my letter to the annual letter to the town manager. This coming fiscal year, 2026, we have 6 employees receiving step increases, 5 longevity increases, 12 that received vacation increases, and 1 who has elected salary augmentation. We're currently down actually 3 bodies. We have 3 officers, 2 that retired this fiscal year, 1 is out injured. We've tried to hire over the last, 8 months, and it's been impossible. We remain a civil service community. I don't want to speak for the fire chief, but I'll speak for myself that I've seen this coming for the last 6 years. We tried to get out of civil service and it failed. But we went through 160 names, and we couldn't find a viable candidate. So we're looking at some other options through a new local register with civil service, but it's been fruitful at best to try to find anybody. We also are benefiting from some grant funding this year again through the DMH grant that we have, a co-responder model that has a clinician assigned to the police department, and it allows for officer follow-ups. We also received a grant and split it with the fire department both last year and this year for active shooter training, where we got the majority of our officers through active shooter training. So we do have an officer who is assigned to the DEA task force, and the DEA actually pays for his overtime. So his
There's somebody that's not on mute here, we're just hearing, I don't know, their TV. I don't know if anybody has the controls of that.
It's quiet now.
So as I was saying, we actually have a person that's assigned part-time to the DEA task force, and the DEA pays for the overtime. We don't see as a police department the overtime being reimbursed directly into the budget. It actually goes into the general fund and will become free cash after the end of the fiscal year. So getting into the budget document, which is kind of upside down here. Just the different sections that I'll go through. We'll go over to the budget summary, which is requesting an increase of $172,128. That would be actually a 3.9% increase. The majority of the increases are all contractual through union contracts. On the next page, this goes over the salary increases, which the total is $116,862 for salaries. My salary increase for next year, $5,913. And then overtime. So if you look at the overtime, this is what I've historically put in for overtime, 7,240 hours. It hasn't been funded at this in a number of years. So if we did fund it at this amount, it would be $521,000. And what I've done this year is I've done an average of the last 3 years what we used, which was 6,580 hours to request $473,760. So the difference is about 660 hours of difference. The longevity increase is only $200. Shift pay, so if a sergeant's not working or a lieutenant's not working, a patrolman is in an officer in charge capacity and they receive a stipend for that. That's a $500 increase. The fringe benefits is actually a decrease because the deputy chief does not receive that any longer. Incentive pay is a contractual stipends, which is $6,778. There's no increase in the remainder of the personnel services, the injury, the special police, or the matron covers. And really when we go to expenses, really the only increases are, you'll see the MC cleaning, that's what we pay for the cleaners to clean the station. That's the anticipated increase for next year. And then there was a couple of items in there that we've been trying to get away from what has historically come under the town manager's budget under building maintenance and put it under the repair, maintain buildings for the police department. So the increase there is $10,200. And that is really the only increases it is the only increases for the remainder of the expense budget. So I did want to go to where it was page 9 and just mention this. You might have saw something about this. Under Police Academy, it's the same request as last year, is $6,000, there's no increase. But I made a note that the governor is increasing the amount under her proposed budget that we pay. So if we send somebody to the Police Academy, there's a $3,200 fee. The governor has proposed an increase in the fee to $6,000. So I just wanted to make everybody kind of aware of that. So at the end of the budget document, we go into the department wage and salary sheet, which shows every officer and employee of the department and what their base salary is. The next page is the fiscal 2026 budget, which has a breakdown of each individual line item. After that is the breakdown of the benefit, vacation, longevity, clothing, education, training, and et cetera, for each individual officer. And I started to put this together several years ago because it goes without saying that every year we have somebody that leaves the police department for some reason. And I put a historical perspective of vacancies just so you can see that every year somebody leaves. This past year we had 2 retirements. They were really unforeseen. So then I had the organizational chart, which hasn't changed in the last few years. And then I put together, because it's always a question about what we use overtime for, so I put the overtime needs, what we spend overtime on, just so everybody can see it. I know I've been over several times with this group and individually with some members of the finance committee. The committee changes here and there, but this is kind of what we use overtime for. The next 2 sections are just an overview of, we now come under the peace officer standards and training. There's new requirements that come under us through the landmark legislation of 2020. So there's just some information if you wanted to go on the post-commission website and look at that. We also are an accredited police department, and this is a little overview of what the accreditation is. We will be up for reaccreditation next year. Every 3 years we have to get reaccredited, and there'll be a series of days where outside assessors will come in to assess our police department. And that will likely happen in March. And then once we get through that, for the first time I think ever, well, I know it's ever, we actually had to put together, I told you about the 160 candidates, I put together a recruitment flyer looking for candidates for civil service lateral transfers, and we haven't got anybody. It's one of those things right now, it's, I think I mentioned here and there that it's supply and demand. There's very little supply and a high demand right now. So a lot of people are free agents. They can go basically wherever they want. And then lastly, we've been as low as number 2 as the safest community through the SafeWise program. And this year, I just for the heck of it, I looked on their website and we're number 17. So that doesn't really have anything to do necessarily with the police department, but I think it shows the community we live in and the teamwork that's established with all the department heads and through the leadership of the town manager. So that's kind of my brief overview. If you have any specific questions.
What's an incentive pay?
What's an incentive pay? Sure, it's an educational benefit,
Yes.
training stipend.
And what's the factors that drove us from 2 to 17? You know?
Well, I'll be honest with you, when you're in the top 20, it's very minute, and it's all based on your NIBRS numbers, National Incident-Based Reporting numbers, on selected crimes, and it's all very, very small. It's almost like the GPA for a valedictorian and a salutatorian. It's just a very minute difference.
Any challenges you see coming up or concerns of this year's budget?
I don't have anything in particular. I mean, my biggest concern, I think, maybe the fire chief is the same way, is just trying to hire people. We're definitely struggling with that right now. And if people start to leave, if, this injury turns into retirement and then somebody else leaves, then we're down 4 people. It's tough to make that up in this environment.
Chief, is there a way of setting up the DEA overtime so that it could go right back in since it's a draw on your overtime account? Or are you gonna have to come potentially back and ask for it back from the free cash towards the end of the year if you need it?
Yeah, so I mean, I've asked James about that. I think James is on tonight, and it's not considered a grant, so I can't do that. It's not reimbursable like when we have the traffic grant and we have officers who are working traffic details, the pedestrian grant out in front of Wheaton College. We have a separate line item for that, and we take money into a deficit and then replace it with the reimbursement. But because it's not a grant per se, we can't do that.
That's it.
So you said you're down 3 people, correct? I see on the salary just 2 at the bottom. The last two, what is the third one?
One is out injured.
Oh, so you got one on engine. So the roughly $130,000 that's in those salaries where those people don't exist, is that gonna go into the overtime budget on next year, seeing you don't have anybody?
Well, it could. Certainly, I think we'll be over our allotted overtime this year, and it will come from the salary account. I will note is that one of those positions is only funded at 75% for next year, because I don't think we'll have somebody up and ready for July 1st.
Okay, so you're looking for, if my math is correct, a 3.8% increase, or $172,000. Is that about right?
Yes.
And let me touch, I know you've answered this before, but is it time to, the civil service thing, I don't know what you're gonna do with it, if you're gonna try to go at it again and try to get it removed. But is it time to relook at bringing back special police officers? I know there's issues with that, and we discussed it in the past, but
We
you got
can't,
limited options.
under police reform of 2020, there is no more reserve intermediate academy. We literally cannot do that.
So that's
It's completely off the table.
So is there any talk amongst the 2 departments here of putting the civil service thing back on the ballot for a 3rd time? Maybe 3 times a
We talk about it
charm?
every day, but it's like, we don't want, I think there has to be bigger discussion. One of the things I hear is that, there wasn't enough information about it, that some people that voted no against it didn't want to lower our standards. It has absolutely nothing to do about lower our standards. Obviously, the last time, when the fire department was on by itself, there was 2 override votes, and nobody checks off no, yes, right? Like, they just don't do it. So, and that's what happened there. It was, and
I think
it passed unanimously at town meeting. It passed unanimously at town meeting. So, I think it's, something we have to discuss a little more.
Yeah, unfortunately, my opinion is, most people are not informed, they're not paying attention, as you see, there's nobody here. So I just don't know how you get that communicated to the public enough. Where you're not a political organization, you almost need a group of something. I'm not sure what the answer is,
Yeah.
but
There is a new hybrid model that myself, the fire chief, and the town manager went to a meeting with civil service about 2 weeks ago. I think we're going to probably explore that a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's probably better than what we have now.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Communications, so this year, as you know, in December of 2020, we moved to Semrec at High Rock Hill in Foxborough. And our assessment next year is going up to $600,000 from $450,000. I guess I wanted to point out a couple things. In 2017, when we started discussing the estimated cost for dispatch, we were operating then, 2017, at communications being $981,426 roughly. We were looking then at a possible assessment cost, this is 2017, of $544,000. Even though I think this went up, it's still a great value. I think if we had our own dispatch center here, we'd be paying well over $1.2 million. Possibly not even including any type of health insurance. I think we've saved substantially over the last few years with the going to a regional dispatch. The technology that they have up there, the assistance they give us is invaluable in my opinion. So, but that's just the assessment that will go up this year.
Madam Chair? There was talk of other communities joining that to try to reduce the cost. Is any movement on that since last year?
They are in discussions with other.
So nothing new, there's nobody new on it?
Nothing as of yet, but it is being discussed.
How many other towns are they discussing now with, is there a cap?
There's not necessarily a cap. They're discussing it with 4 or 6 other towns. So a lot of it depends on the grant. They have to put the grant. I think the grant has to be in this week or next. And I don't know if you've ever been up there. I'd love to take you guys up there because I think you'd be just astonished. It's like something out of Star Wars. But there's a whole back room that's undeveloped, and the purpose of applying for a grant to get new communities is to get enough money in that grant to build out that back room. And once they do that, I think you'll see people come.
What do you think the driver is for the increase?
I don't know if in particular the increase why it went up to. I think it's been discussed like that for a few years.
Yeah, that was always the plan, because Foxborough and Mansfield went up previously, and Easton and Norton were last into the group, so we have a reprieve until this coming fiscal year.
But it's only $56,000 more than what we were looking to pay in 2017.
So they think it's a good deal.
Is there a step up in, say, 27 and 28? Does this go up to 750, 900? Is there a cap to where we sit on this, or is it going to continue to go up at this rate?
We really don't know, and a lot of it depends on other communities that we get in to the group to try and level any increases, bring them down a little bit. Right now, there is not an anticipation of a major increase. It's all based on how the grants keep coming in.
Yeah, so the State 911 grant, I know there's been discussion lately that the grant is funding these major centers, and there's less funding going to the standalone centers like we used to have. So, I think we're seeing the brunt of the money right now. So I don't know if it's there's no plan for next year for it to go up in particular.
I know there's no crystal ball, but with grant money, what always concerns me is that the grants go away or dry up. Any concerns there? I know you're saying regional.
No, I mean, it's every single cell phone bill that you get has a small surcharge. So it's in the law. So I don't think that's gonna be affected.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
say we're in the same situation as Chief Black is. I know we want to kind of speak out of turn, but the same for us. We're having difficulty hiring people. Right now, we're down 2 positions, possibly a third coming up. We've called for 2 paramedic lists through civil service. We've had 0 applicants sign up the list, so we are exploring that hybrid model right now, and we're going to work on some other things that you talked about a little bit earlier. So, anyway. So yeah, I'll just kind of give you a quick overview and hit the highlights, any of the significant line items or changes from last year here. Okay, so I'll just kind of go through the first one is salaries and wages. So we're requesting $3,585,478 in that. That is all contractual increases. All the majority of our budget is contractual increases. We've had 17 members that had step increases in addition to their regular raise as well, so that's where that number comes from. For the overtime, we're requesting $647,048. Obviously, you probably don't know, but the overtime primarily is used to maintain adequate staffing when employees are off on contractual time or are injured, or we have a major incident, and we call them back in. In addition, what some people might not know is that all the holiday pay comes out of the overtime account as well. So automatically $100,000 of our overtime, just about anyway close to that, goes right towards holiday pay. So in addition, we've had 9 members go up in vacation steps, so the demand is going to go up a little bit. And we've kind of transitioned to a younger department over the past several years, which is good. We have more people going to take classes, get their degrees. We also have a lot more people having babies. So a lot of them are out on maternity leave, and that's a contractual thing that they're allowed to use and stuff. So that also increases the need for overtime as well. So the next line would be incentive pay, and we are requesting $697,530 for that. That's strictly contractual increases, and also people attaining degrees that they might not have previously had. So that's what represents the increase there. Training is just a small increase request. We're asking for $65,699 in that. Moving on to the operating expenses, there is some significant increases in here, and I'll explain that to you. With the new town hall being built, previously the town budget paid for all the maintenance, gas, and electricity for the fire station. So this year we have to take that, we're taking that on into our budget. So it's nothing, it's not really new, but it's just shifting more from the town hall side to us. So without these increases, our operation expense would have only gone up by, I think, like 0.9%. So it's quite different with these increases. So for electricity, you'll see last year was $62,000, this year is $44,000. We're just going to run the numbers up. Natural gas is going from $8,000 to $23,468, and the repair and maintain buildings is going from $10,100 to $32,967. The other thing I would keep in mind is that we really tried hard to come up with the most accurate numbers we could to base our request on. We've never had to pay for the maintenance of the building before. A third of the building's gone now, so trying to calculate all that kind of stuff, and we're pretty much about 80. We're trying to figure about 80%. Because we're there 24 hours a day, when the town employees were only there, roughly 8-10 hours a day previously. So we could be over, we could be a little bit under. I'm not really sure, but we put a lot of time into trying to come as close as we could with our request for that. So good news, professional services, we actually decreased by $8,300. And part of that was when we were going to get out of civil service, we would have had a company come in and do promotional exams, but we're still in civil service, so we're paying for them to, our people to actually take the exams at civil service, but it's cheaper to do that. Educational assistance is just a small increase of about $1,600. We're asking for $33,600. That's also a contractual line item for members to be able to go to school and get reimbursed for it. So thankfully, and again, that's an estimate as well, because if we had every member going to take classes, we would be way over that. But moving on to emergency medical. For repair and maintaining vehicles, we're actually going down $4,500, which is good. We were about 9,000 last year, and I asked for 5,000 in the fall just because the ambulance was getting decimated with major repairs. So I think we've replaced just about every important part in both of the ambulances. We got a new ambulance that just got delivered. It's already back out getting stuff done to it, but it's under warranty. So long story short, that should be under warranty for the majority of the upcoming fiscal year. So we don't anticipate any major expenses with that. So that's why we're going down with that right now. Okay. Ambulance billing, just a small increase. We're asking for $80,000. That's always kind of a good one when that goes up because we're getting 96% of what we're asking for. They charge us 4% for the billing, right? So, in other words, the more that we're paying them, that means that they're making more money for the ambulance count. Okay. What else? For training under EMS, you see that number is still pretty high. We're asking for $43,250. And included in there is a tuition for 2 members to go to paramedic school. Because like I mentioned to you earlier, we've tried to get paramedics at least a couple of times now. We're going to try again with a hybrid model through civil service once we get that worked out in hopefully a few weeks. But if we're unable to still get paramedics at that point, we're going to have to resort to hiring EMTs, get them to go through the fire academy, which takes at least a year or so, and then send them to the next available paramedic school, and that takes approximately 2 years for them. So you're looking at probably 3 years before you have somebody who's a paramedic. So that's why we're trying so hard to try to get people that are already trained and certified. But it's been a real challenge for us. So. Let's see what else we got. Emergency management. This is really easy. There's only one line on here. We're asking for $10,050, and that's just an increase of $330 from last year. Any questions?
I have a couple questions, Madam Chair. This one's for both chiefs, actually. Going back when we first decided that we were going to try to exit civil service, you guys both, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how anybody cannot hear me, but that's, you guys both renegotiated with your unions. Whatever happened with that? So what is, I mean, we must be in some kind of limbo. You negotiated something that we're going to come out of civil service. We're still in civil service, so how is that played out for me to understand?
They settled the contract, and the contract's in effect.
But did we make the changes? Did they reverse back? I mean, how does that work?
It's not.
You make a deal and then you can't get it through, does it revert back to the previous deal?
Nope.
They received a benefit for it. The issue is it has to come out at a town election. It has to come out the way it went in, which is a town election.
I get that. But if you negotiated with me and you said, okay, I'm going to leave the civil service, and I don't know what the deal was, I'll give you a 2% increase, just for argument's sake. And it didn't happen because we weren't able to get it over the line. What happens to those contracts? They still got the increase? If there was one, I assume there was one. And we're still in civil service.
Correct.
But it's not their fault, Zach, that
No,
they're still in civil service, you know?
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just curious how that played out and where it is. I don't know if there was a clause that it must pass or...
No.
Yeah, Chief, just looking at the incentive pay, that's the education piece too, right? Look at-
Yeah, there's there's a lot of incentives, but education is one of them.
And I'm just looking right now, through 12/31, it's 89% expended. Any concerns through the rest of the year? 6
No,
months?
that's a good question, but the majority of it gets paid out in December in one lump sum. And then there's some specialist positions get paid out quarterly, so that's where you see a lot of that money that left over is allocated to that. Yeah.
Any concerns that you have with this year's budget presented?
Not particularly. Like I said, just the hiring people and hoping people don't get hurt and, you know, that sort of thing.
Thanks.
Chief, I had a question.
Sure.
I thought the last time that you spoke to us, you had said that you had a couple of people in the academy that were supposed to be coming out in February. Did that happen? Has that helped at all?
Good question. We had 2 people in. One of them is all set, great employee. The other one resigned. due to medical issues. He has some medical issues while he was in the academy, and tried to recover from it and go again, had the same issue, only a little bit worse, and decided that this probably wasn't for him. Yeah.
All right.
So that's one of those openings. As I said, we have two.
Right.
That gentleman was one, and then we had a retirement.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
thanks.
no problem.
I'm sure.
Go ahead.
This question maybe is more from Mike, but, so we pushed more of the facilities and utilities to the local departments, but how do we know 44, is it 44 and 23, like in his budget, are these based on actual meter readings, or is this an allocation, like we were to add them up, based on the prior, what's on the town side, how was the pie chopped up when you're pushing these costs onto the local departments?
It's part of both, looking at the past history, your percentages, and then looking at the bills as they started coming in after we moved out in September.
Kevin, some of those lines, Kevin, are covering Chartley and Barrows and Fire Station too, so it's not purely just for the station here, it's also got two other stations in there, so.
Yeah, previously we were paying for those two stations, but now we're adding on the big one.
Madam Chair?
That's it.
Mike, was it, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't also the DPW over here connected to the town hall electricity?
I'm trying, yeah, they were.
So that's, I assume we haven't gotten that far, but I assume
Yeah, I'll
there's
have
gonna
to
be an
check.
adjustment there too?
I know what the generator room was connected on, but I don't remember if their utilities were connected.
I'm gonna run an extension for my house too, since you got everything else.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
And also,
Oh, same question, okay.
remember the Winnipeg Fire Station, not far from where I used to live on Bay Road, it had to close.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Feel free to give me a call if any questions come up.
Now, do they looking at capital while we're here, or are they gonna come back and talk on that, or is it not?
Are you guys prepared to go over your capital while you're here?
Yeah, I just brought his in here, I don't know if it's cost.
Madam Chair, just to note, the capital committee has not voted on anything that he's presented, so.
No, but we get to come to those both for seconds,
There you go, no
Zach.
problem.
Just pull it up real quick here. So for this year, our request was $30,000 for turnout gear replacement, which is that's right about in the same, actually a little bit less than I think we got last year. Last year, we were fortunate to get a state earmark for the turnout gear, so we actually saved $32,000 last year, which was really good. But that's pretty much in there every year for the turnout gear. A set of turnout gear right now is about $4,500 just for one set. It only lasts for about 10 years. Each member has 2 sets of gear so that they can wash their gear when they come back from a call and have another set to be able to utilize. So that was one of our requests. Our other request was just for the payment of the pumper and tower replacement for $649,800. So that would be year 2 of 5. And we had requested $35,000 for gas meters, but we asked to defer that because we're trying to pursue a grant for the gas meters right now. We just probably won't find out for a couple of months whether we're able to get it or not. So we're trying to get a federal grant for that. And then we asked for $300,000, 50-50 split from the ambulance account for station repairs with the town hall. Moving out and us getting that little bit of extra space. Just some money to try to, we're working with an architect right now to try to find the best way to utilize that space and kind of modernize the building a little bit and make it a little more practical. So for example, like our classroom can only fit about 18 people in it, and it's kind of bumper to bumper in there when you do that. It's a long rectangular classroom, so it's not really suited very well if you're sitting in the back. So we have 40 people in our department. We often have to do trainings with everybody there several times a year. So that's one of the things that we're trying to increase the space for. So And that was all we had. Any questions about any of that?
Madam Chair? Under the current contract with this company that's doing the demolition, what kind of condition are they leaving that in the interior walls? Is it going to be just a disaster, or is it going to be finished walls,
Yeah,
painted?
when it's done, they say they're gonna put it back to the way that it used to look, so it's supposed to be a finished wall in there, when it's done. They pulled out, some of the rug tiles, and kind of stacked them in one of the rooms, they're supposed to put them back over there. Once in a while, we'll kind of get on them a little bit about housekeeping and reminding them that we're gonna be staying in there after they leave. For the most part, it's been pretty good, and they say it's gonna be like new when they leave. At least
How much more time do they have, do you know?
I'd say at least a couple of months anyway, I would think, maybe 3 months or so.
At least in May.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Other questions?
All right, thank you again.
Yeah.
All right, so the police department capital request is for 3 line cruisers at $216,000, and for year 5 of our payment plan of $21,000 for our electronic control weapons, which is otherwise known as a taser. Customarily, we do ask for 3 cruisers. We ordered our cruisers last spring. We didn't. There was no approval of new cruisers, so we waited till the fall, and we ordered them about a week after within the week after town meeting. We still haven't received them, so it tells you how long it takes to get new cruisers. We were down 6 cruisers last month, all at various different times for various different things. So it doesn't take much for us to go down cruisers, especially as our cruisers get older and we don't replace them as frequently as we should. So the cruisers that we're looking to replace are 2013, 2018, and a 2020. The 2020 is used almost every shift, as was the 2018, and the 2013's been in reserve for a couple of years, but it's well on its way out the door. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is inspections. So inspections department, salaries increase total is $10,000. Part-time wages, $8,000 increase. Longevity pay, $200 increase. Incentive pay stays the same. The expenses with this request, the major increase is under other supplies, and that's the line item that the building department uses for board-up supplies for vacant buildings. So that's something we'll be looking at. And also outside inspection coverage. No, excuse me, that's low. So the main thing there was the board-up supplies. Then the next sheet is the salaries. So in the building department, you have the building commissioner and full-time building commissioner and a full-time clerical staff. And then you have the part-time inspectors. You have a wiring inspector, a plumbing gas inspector, and a second plumbing and gas inspector. Those positions are paid per inspection. So looking at past history and how many inspections they've had, the budget estimates are those that are to the right, 30,000, 25,000, 5,000, and 30,000.
Can you share your screen again on Zoom?
Say that again?
Can you just share
Oh,
your screen
I
on
thought
Zoom?
it was. I'm sorry. There we go. Any questions?
That's it.
Mike, obviously, it's based on, I see last week's meeting, the building commissioner has resigned.
Yeah, I think he's moving on to West Bridgewater.
And my question is, I don't know what your salary study is, but are you gonna be able to get somebody that seems low for a building commissioner? I don't know, do you think you'll be able to hire somebody for that number?
I think we will, because we based the ad on the salary survey that was just done last year with the high and low range, so depending on what experience they have, if we find someone. Just getting any applicants, it's crazy. I mean, we've been looking for a local inspector for months, and nothing.
Any other questions on that budget?
Next is the dog officer. And in that department, you have the full-time dog officer and also one part-time person. And you have the contractual salary increases for the full-time officer, slight increase for the part-time, and under the benefits, the longevity pay increases by $150. And then his expenses are up $600, or $200, excuse me.
Questions on the dog officer?
Next, Chris Sonner is on Board of Health budget.
Everybody hear me okay?
A little bit.
You say yes?
Yes.
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 Oh, okay, good. How you doing? Chris Sonner from Board of Health. So as you'll see, our total for our salaries actually went down a little bit this year because we have a new secretary that started at a little lower rate. Any increases that were done on those salaries were done on contractual through the unions. And part-time wages would be for assistant health inspector as well as we pay a small quarterly payment to the animal control officer for animal inspector, where he does our stable inspections and kennel inspections. Our expenses, as you can see, I don't change very often. The auto vehicle repair number is usually up pretty high, but I usually can cover it with rich from other accounts, so I don't really like to add to my total if I don't have to. So I'm usually pretty consistent about leaving it alone at where it is. And then public health nurse account, as you know, we no longer have a public health nurse per se on salary. We do have, however, which we did not have. You'll notice on this here that there wasn't much money spent at all last year. And this was due to, well, this current fiscal year, this was due to the fact that You pre-order your vaccines, and we had nobody we didn't know where we were going to be at when it came springtime due to the override and everything else, and then we didn't have a regional health nurse, which we do now. So we'll be giving back some money this year from that for sure. But we'll be looking to be prepared for next season. We do now have a regional shared public health nurse. So hopefully we'll be able to put some food clinics and other clinics in place that will be beneficial for the town.
Any questions on either of those?
Madam Chair.
Any
So
questions?
if we now have a regional nurse or what have you, how come you're not asking for any type of immunization supplies?
So we are going to be ordering the immunization supplies. You do that in the spring. So that's why we're showing right now that we haven't spent much. Because you order in the spring for the following flu season. And they don't deliver obviously until that following flu season, but you pre-order. All that stuff will be done in the springtime.
But you don't have any of it in your
Right.
budget.
I'm sorry?
You don't have any of it in your budget, so how are you gonna purchase it?
For the
Well,
next fiscal year.
yeah, we do currently have stuff that's in stock now. And I do have the medical and surgical supplies if I had to. But generally, one of the big things is that a lot of our flu shots come complete pre-filled syringes, so we don't necessarily have to do a whole lot of purchasing for supplies.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Chris, where does the shared nurse salary come out of?
So that's a grant that we have through SDPH. We're currently sharing a nurse, a food inspector, and a epidemiologist with Mansfield, Foxborough, Easton, Sharon, and Plainville. And this is currently we're within a 3-year grant right now. There's about a year and a half left of that grant. So currently it's all being fully paid through, those positions are being fully paid through the grant money. But we don't know how long that's going to stay.
I'm just gonna ask, were you able to try to reapply for that for another 3-year grant?
We always intend to try to keep pushing it along and see how far we can get with it. But, it's obviously going to be whether or not the grant's available.
Thank you.
I will say this, if the funding for that came federally, and with the atmosphere we're in right now, I'm not sure that fund's going to be there forever.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Next up, Chris, sanitary landfill. Sorry.
Okay, you want to push,
Yeah.
get that down, too. So sanitary landfill, this is the required testing that we have to do for Mass DEP. This is for the capped landfill of the Hill Street. So we contract with CEC Environmental Consultants, and this year they're looking to be doing the gas monitoring for the 8 points that they deal with over there, the 8 monitoring wells, as well as the air inside basement of 21 Hill Street, because in the past there was traces of gases within that basement, but it hasn't shown in many, many years. It really hasn't shown any traces since I've been here for 500 years, but they Yeah, so this year, because we don't have to do groundwater testing over there, that's why the number's down from the 15.4 that was there last year.
Chris, do you know, right now you've only spent 3,900, do you know if that's going to be, go up at some point soon, or is that extra money you're going to have to turn back?
That number should still go up. Well, that number should get used up because I believe there's one more test before the end, and then I believe that is the 3,900. I believe there's another gas and groundwater test that will be happening. I believe it's in May, so that we have our invoice in by June to get it done before the fiscal year is over.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is the March 19th special town meeting warrant. And we do have some people online also with us. Hold these questions, I'll go over the questions first, if I can hold the questions, and then I'll go back to the PowerPoint. The first question is have the town consider borrowing $8 million, up to $8 million for the Elm Street and the Elm Street water and sewer project. And right now, as you know, we have a grant of $3.5 million that would come off of that. And this would be paid for through water fees for the water portion of the project, and the sewer portion would be paid from betterments. And the second article, and I failed to mention Militaris is also included in that. We'll go over that. The second article is the Water and Sewer Department is looking to borrow $100,000 for engineering, planning, design, permitting, and/or construction intake aeration system at the ground storage tank on Cottage Street. And this is to be added to the $375,000 that they were authorized to borrow under Article 10, May 11th, 2023, and the annual town meeting, and the $150,000 authorized to be transferred from water retained earnings. Then just to go back to Article 1, and this, so I know most everyone knows what this project is. Just to go over it again, this is a project to construct a gravity sewer main from Elm Street, including Militaris, down to Reservoir, and there'll be one municipal wastewater pump station, roughly in the area of Library Square, Library Park, and 4,500 linear feet of water main improvements on Elm Street and Militaris. So this project would allow improvement of 47 Elm Street, which is the old Reed and Barton factory that obviously is in deplorable condition. This is a priority economic target area. The existing infrastructure in that area, I know we had someone in here the other day talking about the water main on Militaris is a 1-inch water main. So the existing infrastructure in that area has limitations, and this economic target area has allowed us to obtain the $3.5 million Mass Works grant to help us out with this project. So it'll never be more cost effective to have those improvements of water and sewer in that area. The was public bid process for the project, and the grant money, water rates and betterments will pay for that. 70% of the betterments will be allocated to 47 Elm Street. So previously, the estimated construction costs was 1.7 million for the water main work and 4.4 million for the sewer work. The bid results came in and 1.33 for the water main work and 4.3 million for the sewer work. So then with a 10% contingency, as you see below that, that would bring it up to 7.54 million. And also Militaris will have to be a bid alternate. The water main part of that, for some reason that wasn't part of the bid process, but it definitely could be done within the 8 million. So the anticipated resulting betterment range will be $10,000 to $12,000 per unit. Single family in the apartment complex, 150 units. So that's how they came up with their bid, their betterment. So just, why support this article? Sewer service and improved water pressure to the town's priority economic target area, enhance property values and expand tax base, and relief from potentially expensive Title V repairs later for some of the homeowners. Not approving the project would result in a loss of 3.5 million Mass Works grant, and in the short term and long term, the costs are going to go up. And it would be unlikely to see this money again. Just so you know, as we've talked about before, along the way, according to the town bylaw, anyone abutting a new sewer line has 7 years to tie in. And because they're paying betterments, they don't have to pay a sewer tie-in fee. Not to be confused with construction costs. So the homeowners would have to pay their own contractor to connect them to the sewer line, but they don't have to pay a betterment fee to the water and sewer department because they'll be paying a betterment.
Madam Chair? Mike, what's gonna be done to change the bylaws to something a little more palatable, like on the sale or transfer of the property, or on failure of your Title V system, instead of the 7-year rule, which I know no one is supposedly enforcing, but it should be enforced if it's there. So how can we get that changed, Mike? I think that's one of the bad points of trying to sell us.
Just like any other article at town meeting, someone would have to propose an article.
Just a simple article, town meeting, change the bylaw? Because we discussed this last year, and I'm surprised that that didn't come forward already by the water and sewer, that actually shipped that out.
And if I can, the select board did vote 4-1 in support of this article.
We have question time?
All set, Mike, for your presentation? Okay, go ahead, Zach.
Where do I start? How much time you got? So this was brought before this committee last year, I believe, and it was voted down if my memory serves me. Then we brought it to town meeting, and at the 11th hour, it was taken off because there was going to be a deal with the developer. And we're here today, so where's the deal with the developer? You got that slide?
What's that?
The way it was last left at town meeting, that there was going to be a deal with the developer.
I got your question. So I believe the select board is confident that they can work something out with the developer. But as was said at the meeting by one of the select board members and the developer, it's the chicken or egg thing. What happens first? The developer can't get financing without town meeting authorizing the project to move forward. The bank won't finance the deal. So that's, one of the things that has to happen. And the other way to look at it is we didn't have a developer, we will never have an opportunity to have $3.5 million to help defray the cost. And if we don't get water and sewer improvements down to 47 Elm Street, no one's ever touching the property.
So who's on the hook for the $8 million? The taxpayers in Norton?
For the $8 million,
That you're asking, you're gonna ask the taxpayers to come up with $8 million. Does that come out of water sewer receipts? Does that come out of the municipal budget? Where's that coming from?
1.33 million will come out of water receipts, and the sewer work is all betterments.
And 3.5 million grant,
Minus the
right?
3.5 million.
Mike, can I ask a question about the, so to Zach's point, this is now the third time this has come before us, right? And the last time that we talked about this before the town meeting, we talked about the force main, right? As opposed to the gravity fed, so just so saving $2 million. To me, that gives all the benefits still. I mean, the property gets developed. I know the road has to get torn up the other way, but I know all the other benefits in terms of the property developed, we get to use the grant money, all those pluses still seem to be the case. And I guess my biggest concern is going into a special town meeting in March with probably not a whole lot of people there, the majority of which are probably going to be those who have a vested interest, living nearby as they would. I feel like I don't think this has changed enough from the last time to make it more palatable for the residents. I think it's what, $4,000 cheaper? Is that what it's going to be for the betterments? Is that the decrease from last time to this time is like
Yeah.
$4,000?
Because now we have the bids.
Right. So I guess my concern is if it doesn't pass again, which I'm very skeptical that it would, that we're going to lose the grant money, we're going to lose our chance to develop this property. And at what point do we just say, let's at least get the sewer to the property, do the force main? It seems like 47 Elm, that whoever develops it will pay less overall for their betterment. So it will be helpful for them and maybe more of an incentive to get it developed quicker. So again, I don't think enough has changed since the last time for me to change my opinion to feel like the force main, the option B that we talked about the last time is just a better way of going.
I think that did come up at the select board meeting, and I think the feeling was that you're going to be digging up the road anyway, and then you're going to put in a force main to 47 Elm Street, and just like out here, years later, people on Elm Street, their septic systems are going to fail, and they're going to want to tie into this force main. You're like, you can't. It's not possible. If we had the gravity line there, you could tie in, but now you can't because it's a force main.
Is this building tied in
No.
because of the force main only as well?
Right, it's a private line out there.
Other questions? Go ahead, Bill.
So, Mike, I had the pleasure of sitting in Sandy's seat, I think for 2 years, as West Main was being developed. And I don't know how many times it came back for, we didn't anticipate this, we need another $1 million. We gave the $1 million. A year later, we ran into this issue, another $1.5 million. So I'm psyched here that your bids came in lower than anticipated. The contractor who made those bids, how good are they at actually estimating what it's gonna cost? And we're not gonna be sitting here in a year with, we misjudged there, there's, you know, rock this, rock that, and we need another $2 million.
Steve, do you want to talk about the bids?
Yes, sir, I can speak to that. I mean, I guess that is the big difference this time, is that we already have bids in hand. We've vetted the contractor, he's more than qualified to do the work. So we have much higher comfort level with the numbers this time around, having the bids in hand. And we put it, you know, there's still a contingency on that as-bid number in the $8 million article.
But we had that same, you know, the initial bid for West Main, and everybody was confident about it, and then it went over, and that first request, and I know there were people on this board who asked, is this gonna be it? Yes, we're super confident that this is it. Well, it came back again for more than they did the first time. So, I'm glad you feel confident, but how confident are we?
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot, we talked about this in the other meetings. We gathered a lot more information this time. We spent a lot more money during the design on testing in the road. You know, we went beyond the industry standard for borings to make sure we had a good grasp on what the subsurface conditions are. And, again, the first article we went for before was you know, before we had opened bids. So that was one of the first things that changed. But I would say, you know, we built on that experience. Obviously, I understand how frustrating it was for everybody. We used that information to have better numbers this time. That's where we're at. The $8 million, we're definitely comfortable with the $8 million as the upset number for this project.
It's not the same contractor, is it?
It is not.
Thank you.
But Zach,
So we're digging up that street, and that's in front of that waste site there. Is there any environmental studies that have been done? Can you dig up the street? I assume if the ground is contaminated on the site, it's seeped under the road. So is there anything that's involved in, once they start digging that up, any surprises there? I don't know what, you know.
So to get that soil, so as part of the boring program, the soils were tested. The contractor has special provisions in his contract for handling the materials. We have a permit called the URAM, the utility related abatement measures for any soils that they encounter. Basically, if they have soils, they can't go back into the trench. Extra, you know, when they excavate the trench, anything that can't go back in, if it is in an area that doesn't meet the standards of normal disposal, they have to dispose of it in a different manner. And we have those quantities from the testing that we did.
And that's in the quote?
It's in the price.
Zach, they mitigated the ground contamination in the building itself years ago as far as where the tanks were. So that hopefully caught.
I don't see pictures over the years.
Bill, Jim?
So again, to Zach's point, if, you know, you do the borings, they're every 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever. And, you know, now you're actually in the project, you're digging up the road, and you come upon this just site of contamination. Does that halt the project because now you have more of a cleanup than putting in water and sewer?
So, no, I mean, it's already been reported to the DEP that we're doing this work in this area. They're aware of it. And then it's part of the contract to just deal with, like I said, the excess excavated material that came back to the trench.
So the fact that we think you know, the site is, or we think we know what pollution is on the actual site, we're hoping it hasn't seeped into the road. But if it's a lot worse than we're thinking, that it's still, we can just put in water and sewer and forget we've seen all this pollution? Worst case scenario.
So it's been characterized. All I can tell you is we did do testing in the street in front, and we identified where there may be some seepage. They found low levels in some areas immediately adjacent to the site. They are allowed, for the work that they're doing, the nature of the material, they're allowed to put it back in the trench. And that's what they're going to do with the material. It's just a matter of any excess material has to be paid to be hauled to a special site for that type of material.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, are there any residents or anybody on Zoom that want to speak on this?
Yes, I have a question.
Hey, can you just identify yourself?
It's Earl Todd, 31 Elm Street.
Go ahead.
So last time, this was at the town meeting, as you said earlier. This was tabled because we were under assumption that the developer was going to come back with a better deal. And from what I'm hearing, that has not occurred. So I'm not sure why we would want to move forward with this. Obviously, we want that area developed, but it's my opinion that the developer should be taking on these expenses and not having the residents of Elm Street bear the burden of these betterments, as opposed to the entire town of Norton. If the town of Norton votes on it and approves it, well, the entire town of Norton should have to help support it, and not just the residents of Elm Street. So, as you said last time, I think the Finance Committee was a no overall, and I hope that this group, you know, says the same thing this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that on Zoom that wanted to speak?
This is Ann Brensley, representing the developer. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments and some updates because some of the information is accurate, but I at least want to give some context behind it. One, for the betterments, for us, we're taking on a significant portion of the betterments. We're taking on, I forget if it's 70% or so, but it's based on the future development we're going to be doing. It's not even based on kind of a prorated amount. It's based on the idea that in the future we're going to have a specific number of units, and that's been prorated based on how many people can tie into the sewer. Also, part of our our dilemma and our issue is just financing. So this project, as you can imagine, with just how it is as of right now, it doesn't work financially. There's just not enough room to make it work. And so we're working with the town, and the agreement that everybody is referencing has a lot more to do with the contingency of needing financing on our end, meaning we can't get approval to finance this project when we don't even know if we have sewer and water. So unfortunately, it's a tough chicken or an egg for both sides. The only thing that I can say is that I think there has been a hope that a deal regarding an up-TIF agreement, which operates very much like a normal TIF, would be able to help us get the funding in a better position so that we can come to the town and say, yes, it's likely to be financed. And that's where we're at. So we were able to draft up a up-TIF agreement. We were able to engage with the state. And then we were also able to really plan out whether this can even be feasible. The one point that I would just make from the financing standpoint is I don't foresee there ever being a future for this area when it comes to water and sewer that wouldn't require this work to be done. The difference is right now there's the opportunity to utilize us as a group who's interested in doing this project and would take on 70 or 75%, I don't remember the math, of the cost, but also on top of that would be able to provide future tax benefits from the project itself, and then we're a good reason why the grant was even given in the first place. And from the cost standpoint, yeah, we're taking it into account as well. So when there's a concern on whether, there's going to be some stuff that we uncover, let me tell you, it's a concern of ours as well. That's why when we look at this project, we kind of look at it and we're kicking ourselves a little bit saying, hey, the more we dig into this, the more, exposure and liability we could have on this project, the more expense we could incur. And so unfortunately for, I think, everybody involved, including everybody on this call, including the select board and finance committee, the question is, if we don't do it now, it is going to happen. This is going to need to be done at some point. And so the question is, do we all kind of have to brace for the fact that this is going to have some elements that are moving parts, some elements that are chicken or an egg, but at least we have a commitment from the town and we have a commitment from the developer. So every time I get onto one of these calls and hear everybody's feedback, I completely understand where everybody's coming from. I wish I could promise everything in order to get this done. And unfortunately, just because of the dynamics of the deal and the financing requirement, I just can't.
Thank you.
Can I speak again?
Is that Earl?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, from my perspective, maybe this isn't the right developer for its project. Clearly, there's a lot of risk, right? So even if the town decides to vote and approve this project, once we get into the nuts and bolts and start drilling, as you say, there's a ton of risk there. At that point, the developer can just walk away. Right? So they're not taking on, they're taking on some risk after the fact. And maybe, once they get into it, they're going to decide, this is too risky for us. The developers, they're investors who obviously are looking to make money. They have all of the funding. Not towns like Norton, not residents of Norton. They're the ones with the funds and the money. And I feel that they should be kicking in the funding for this project, or at least the entire town, if it decides to go forward. And if it's not this developer, perhaps down a few years down the line, it's another one who will be willing to take on this task. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, you want to say something?
This is
probably more of a Mike question. So let's go worst case scenario, because I love playing that. We approve this. Actually, let's back up a little. We're contemplating approving this. We as a board have talked in the past about priorities of the town. So has the select board made the distinction that should this developer walk away, and I don't mean to, be negative to the developer, but should the developer walk away, the select board has made the decision that whatever isn't covered by the residents on Elm Street that cost is of such importance that that is one of the top priorities that the town should be funding.
I think from their vote, they understand that. So in worst case scenario, if the developer did walk away, the town would be responsible for that portion of the betterment that is the developers. So about $1.5 million. Now the town would put a lien on the property, and if some other developer comes along in the future, get that money back, hopefully. And just one other thing I want to mention when it comes to the betterments, we didn't ask the Norton Housing Authority to pay all the betterments on West Main Street because the Norton Housing Authority needed sewer. That was the main impetus for that sewer project heading that way, was the Norton Housing Authority. And going the other way was Wheaton College. And we didn't ask that to happen there. And those residents paid $16,000 per unit as a betterment. We're fortunate here that we have a $3.5 million grant that's lowering the betterments to this $10,000 to $12,000 range. If we didn't have that, we probably would be up in that $16,000 range that other residents had to pay.
Does the town offer any financing to the residents to pay those,
Well, it's spread out over 20 years at 5% interest over 20 years.
But that doesn't include the construction that they have to do.
The construction, they can apply for a Title V grant to connect.
Mike, I think my
Not grant, excuse me, loan.
yeah, I was gonna say grant, yeah.
I think the difference for me is this is a residential area, except for the 47 Elm, whereas West Main was commercial. It benefited the town as a whole to bring the sewer into a commercial area. I think that's our goal, is to give as much of the commercial properties, industrial properties in town sewer. I don't know that the residential is any, from a financial perspective, which is how I'm trying to look at this, I don't know there's a benefit to the town financially to have sewer go in a residential area. And if the residents who we've heard from I think we heard from one person who's been supportive of it, and predominantly it's been people opposed to it. And again, my big concern is that this fails at town meeting, we don't have a plan B, and it's just gone, right? And that $3.5 million is gone because we chose not to go with a plan B with a direct, connection just to 47 Elm.
Madam Chair? Mike, if this is truly a chicken and egg kind of a scenario, is there a reason why it can't be presented as such that if it passes town meeting, they have a certain window to get their financing? If it doesn't happen, then the whole thing just drops off? It doesn't happen? So we're not committed to the $1.5 million additional burden on the town right now, where money is extremely tight and stuff. and just have the project not go forward if that's the case.
I think that's a discussion that would have to be had, yeah, with the water and sewer, see what the bid that they got, how long they can hold that, and just on the financial benefits, one, the developer has to pay the back taxes and interest and penalties, which is over 400,000, I believe, on that property right now. And if the site gets developed into, we get rid of that dilapidated building, any hazardous waste that's left there is cleaned up, and then the building itself should generate over $500,000 a year in taxes to the town.
So I 100% agree with all that. I think something needs to be done. Everything that you just said also seems to me to apply to a force main, to go into a directly to force that no. Town meetings as just in general are hard to get people to come to, never mind a special town meeting in March that, I think it is predominantly going to be the people that have strong feelings about it, right? So again, we're putting a lot of, cut all rights in one basket, we're kind of begging the law on this passing, and if it doesn't, then we're kind of stuck at that point, right? And the other question I had was you mentioned the quote, have they extended, because the quote was in October, how long is that good for?
How long was it extended to the end of March, Steve?
Yeah, so it's been extended twice now, and at this point, the contractor has given us, they're honoring their bid till the end of March from a bid back in October, and they did say that it was most likely in, which would just mean we would have to go to bid again, which is not ideal, but, so the bids that we have are good till the end of March, after 2 extensions.
Thank you. Zach?
Just my feeling on this, sitting in the seat and living on the other end of town, it's very easy for me to say, oh, great, we need to develop, it's an eyesore, sure, let's vote for yes for it. But I like to put myself in the position of the resident living on Elm Street that just got a tax increase that we've all seen. Part of it is the building we're sitting in right now. Utilities through the roof, inflation all over the place. And now I'm sitting here in my residence in Elm Street, and I'm going to say, okay, here's a $10,000 bill. And by the way, when you tie in, I still got to pay somebody another $10,000, $15,000 to do the excavation. I'm hitting those residents up for $20,000, $25,000. Excuse me. So based on that, in my view, I will not, as it stands right now, I didn't support it the first time, and I will not support it this time, for that reason only. It's very easy for me to sit here, living on the other end of town, and say, great, it's not my problem, not my bill, and hand it to the residents of Elm Street, but I don't think that's fair. If the town wants to do it, and that gentleman there, who I don't know, has a point, if the town, if it's critical to the town, then it should be spread out over the town.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Yes.
Who was represented on that?
Mike,
We assigned somebody to that.
That was back before the last town meeting, that was me, but we only met once. And then we have not met since that town meeting.
I was just curious what the feeling was of those that lived on Elm Street, similar to what Zach was saying, what their feelings were about this.
I mean, last I went to the public hearing that we had before the last town meeting. And I think it's, the same concerns, and I guess that's why, for me, the $4,000 discount that they're getting, I don't think it's changeable in minds.
Madam Chair. Paul, with the discussion about the bylaw change maybe to soften the impact against the residents that have a functioning or fairly new Title V system, to make it known that they're not going to have a gun to their head 7 years from now to tie in and stuff if they have a functioning system. Who has to, we talked about that a couple of years now, who has to set that forward? Is that a planning board article, we can change that, or town bylaw?
So I'm Paul DiGiuseppe, I'm the town planner. That is not the planning board, because that's not in the zoning bylaw. That's in the general bylaw, so public could bring it forward, selectmen could bring it, water and sewer commission could bring it forward.
I'm just surprised it hasn't happened, because that's a drawback every time there's a sewer article that comes around, you're going to force.
If we're not enforcing it, just get it in writing.
Madam Chair, one thing on that, I did reach out to the water department when we discussed this in the fall about the tie-in requirement, asking why it was the way it was, and was told that that was important to them for planning purposes, obviously stable income. I totally get that, but frankly, I'm still, if any of the residents of Elm Street wanted to come and get it, and propose an article, maybe in May at this point, to change that, I think the town and the water department could probably handle the small amount of planning adjustment they would have to make, frankly. I think that would be a great idea. It would soften the impact here. Because, a lot of other towns do it. I was surprised by that. That was kind of what I was trying to get at, but a lot of other towns around have different bylaws that are much, like you said, sale or failure, as opposed to a static number.
Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Did you want to vote on this tonight, Madam Chair?
Are we ready to vote? Is everybody
Yeah.
good voting? Okay. All right. Let's do a roll call vote, right? All right. Start, Bill? Oh, actually, don't need a motion, don't I?
Make a motion, what are we doing, Article 1?
Yes.
Make a motion for, $8 million, for the purpose of constructing water mains, water services, sewers, pump stations, etc. on the Elm Street and Miller Terrace locations.
As printed in the
As
article?
printed in the special town meeting warrant.
Excellent. Motion a second, thank you. Okay, Bill?
No.
Steve?
No.
Paul?
No.
Trace?
Nope.
Gavin?
Yes.
Zach?
No.
Kevin?
No.
No. And Paula?
No.
And I am also a no. So, 8 no, 1 yes.
Article 2. Do you need any more explanation? John Harrow, I believe, is on. Any questions? So what happened here was they went out to bid on this project that was funded previously. The bids came in higher than anticipated. There was only one bidder on the project, and this is a requirement of DEP. They want this project moving forward, so that's why it's on the March warrant town meeting, and looking for the $100,000 in additional funding that will be paid for out of water rates.
Anyone have questions on that article?
Motion we approve it as presented in the article.
Second.
Bill?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well.
Madam Chair. Mike, regarding Article 1, the fact that there was no Plan B put forward, not sure why that's the case. The other push was to not have any more forced mains in town, but it still would have taken care of the issue of getting the property developed. And I still think we could have used the grant money if we did so I'm not sure if we're losing out completely because it was an all or nothing instead of the Plan B that we had discussed last year. Just a comment, observation.
I would also vote yes on that one. I voted yes on this because it's the only one in front of us. I think the town needs it, so.
Yeah, but I think the Plan B would have been, you know,
Yeah,
take some of
Plan B
the other
would be-
concerns for now, and
yeah.
at least grabs the grant money, gets the job done, at least with all that eyesore, and,
Hear all that,
you
for
know.
sure. It'd be great if we could do it kind of like the override, you know? How, where we gotta fall.
All right, anything else on the special town meeting? Is that all, Mike? That's just those two, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do we want to talk about our, you were asking me about the time, the meeting time?
Yeah, so.
I'm sorry, Sandy, I didn't hear.
Asked if you wanted to switch to 6 o'clock.
Any interest in switching to 6 o'clock?
What's the driver of the question?
What's that?
Just, no, just because, okay, I hear you.
Just, the school committee's gone to 6 o'clock, the select board starts at 6 o'clock.
Yep, that's a tough one, you know.
Do we want to meet
Madam Chair.
halfway at 6:30?
Paula, did you have
Sorry,
a?
I'm not sure if I heard correctly. Like, are you proposing that we're changing all of our Monday meetings to 6 PM from 7 PM?
I think that's the proposal, yes, Paula.
Yes, okay, okay.
What's your feel? What are your feelings on it, Paula?
Just, personally, I don't know if I can make it 6 PM with work and children and like.
And you said 6:30. And anybody have any appetite for 6:30? Or do you want to keep it 7?
That's a little better.
Paula, I'm sorry, what did you say?
6:30 would be a little better.
Okay.
Want to do a poll for it, or do we want to do an actual formal vote and see if it passes or not?
Do we want to wait for everybody?
Are we ever gonna get everybody, Bill? You got almost everybody.
Well,
What are you missing two?
Not knowing what everybody's, circumstances are. 7 works.
Kick it the next meeting then, and if we have a full quorum, we can discuss it again.
I mean, 7 works, we know that, but if we have, a few people who are missing, who may commute on Mondays or, whatever, it may work for them, it may not work. It's a volunteer committee, we don't want to make it, that difficult.
any other thoughts? I'm up for whatever. Do you want to vote on this, or you want to wait and see?
I have no kids or commute, so I'll abstain either way.
Yeah, I was
Whatever's
gonna
easiest for
abstain too,
everybody.
so
You know, I got no stake.
doesn't matter to me either way, so I would abstain. Doesn't matter. And you're retired, so you would abstain too, so stop laughing over there.
Let's try to come up with an excuse.
You probably want it at noontime.
Kevin, what are you thinking down there?
I mean, I think just beyond who's incumbents currently, it's what'll promote people to volunteer in the future. I don't know. I guess I'm skewing more towards the 7 PM being in the same boat as Paula with the commute and things.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if there's even a couple people that would not be able to make the 6:30, I'd rather leave it at 7. It just sounds like we have a couple people that would be tough for. We also had a request for this is the one time, the joint meeting. The select board asked if we could push that meeting back. I'm not sure where the planning board landed on that.
I'm not sure, and I don't see,
Oh,
oh gosh.
yes.
It's scheduled right now for 7:15, so
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
What date is that?
April 1st?
April 1st.
April Fools.
Push it back in date or push it back in time?
The time, so there was, I think just one select board member that asked if we could push it back earlier.
It's gonna be a little,
Or make it earlier.
make it earlier.
6:30 or
Okay, okay. So I was like, that's
Right now,
confusing.
it's just-
It's-
Forward? Am I saying that wrong?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
As long as we're on the same page. Again, fine with me.
Tracy, you're saying no?
It'll be tough.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I could do
Seven
it,
fifteen is better than pushing it forward, I'm sure.
I could do it once.
Right.
I could do it once, I couldn't do it
And that joint meeting is to discuss,
MBTA.
oh, that'll go on forever. So, that might be the one time we're pushing it forward, might give us enough time. That'll go on for hours.
I mean, I don't know if 7:15, if 7 help at all or no, because I mean, we could all do 7 probably. I'll leave it up to, yeah, planning and see what they say. All right, and then the other discussion point was we need to choose someone, or someone has to volunteer for the search committee for the new town manager.
Madam Chair,
We'll open that up, yes.
I'd like to nominate Zach to be our representative on the committee.
Seconded.
Zach, are you interested?
Yeah, I'd do it.
Seconded then.
Okay. All right, do I have any other nominations? All right, sounds like this is an easy one.
Roll call vote.
Yeah, I'll do a roll call vote. So Bill,
Yes?
Steve,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Trace,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Zach,
Abstain.
Kevin,
Yes.
Paula,
So ethical.
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Congratulations, Zach. That was easy. Excellent. All right, anything else, Mike?
Thanks.
Okay.
You want
Anybody
next
have
Monday
anything
night
else? We are back Monday, yeah.
Mike, just because of the tech, we're gonna meet here next Monday night as well, just so that people on Zoom can actually see what's going on.
Okay. That's what you want, Paul. That's what you want.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
that-
that's
yeah.
what I would prefer, yes. Like the big screens.
Yep.
All right. Guess I will take the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, Bill?
Yes?
Steve?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.